Mark Santiago here, and welcome to the Empowered AF podcast, where each episode we share powerful strategies to help you communicate, act, and lead like an empowered man. Thanks for joining me. All right. I'm excited. Why? Because I've got my man Billy here, and we're going to go through what I call your optimal path forward. So if you're watching on Facebook and it's live, put hashtag live. If you're watching the replay, all right, do hashtag replay. I guess I'm hearing myself on your computer. I was like,
yeah,
what is going on? What is happening? So I want to share my screen, and we're going to be going through what we call the optimal path forward method. All right, guys, if you're watching this, like I said, if you're watching this live, go ahead and put hashtag live so we know who's on here with us. And if you are watching this on replay, put hashtag replay. Now, this is a brand new training. We've never talked about this before, especially in this vein. And dude, the reason I came up with this, I was actually sitting at the lake. It's funny, I write content in the weirdest places. I'm at the lake this weekend and just thinking about the guys that we talk to on a regular basis. And one of the recurring themes that I've been hearing about this week, and maybe you've been hearing the same, the last couple of weeks especially, is like, this has happened. My wife has left me. My wife is cheating on me. My wife has done da-da-da-da-da, right? It's all she-button type stuff. This has happened, but I don't know what to do. I don't know which way to move. And I remember being in this situation myself where I was lost and confused and was like, okay, do I divorce? Do I not divorce? Do I separate? Do I move out? What do I fucking do? And so I call this the optimal path forward. And the reason is because I think that really you're faced with two primary paths. You're faced with what we call a suboptimal path, but you're also faced with an optimal path. And I'm going to dive into this and how this looks for you in your particular situation and how you can apply it. And actually, you can really apply the OPF method to anything. So really it comes from how I make business decisions, and it comes from a lot of different things, but I want to give you the framework for it so that you can apply it to your situation specifically. So again, here who this is for is really, especially you newer guys, right? We've added a lot of new guys, several hundred of you the last week or two to the group. And I wanted to make sure that you got a good understanding of how we think about things, because as we've mentioned many times, this is not a divorce group or a support group. This is a men's empowerment group. And so what we're here to do is empower you. We're not going to give you legal advice. We're not going to tell you divorce that woman, she's a bitch. We're not going to tell you to do any of those things. What we're going to do is help you create frames for yourself to live by. And frames are different from principles. Principles are things that you teach so that you do those things, right? So like you can have a principle like the 80-20 principle where your top 20% of your clients get you 80% of the results, or top 20% of your work gets you 80% of it. It's a principle. But what we want to do is teach you a framework so that you can live the framework. And inside of the framework, there are principles that we do teach, but we first want to start with the framework so you have a place of understanding. And so really, if this is you right now where you need your wife back, like you feel that, like, I want her back, I need her back, I got to have my wife back. You feel betrayed, you feel angry, you feel lost, you lack confidence, power, and freedom. That's mostly who we're talking to. And if you're like, well, I don't feel any of those things, maybe this isn't for you, but I think you're going to get something good out of it regardless. What I found is that a lot of guys get to this place and they lack confidence because they lack clarity on three things. Number one, you either want to be married to this woman, you don't want to be married anymore, or you want to save the old marriage where you repeat the same mistakes over and over again, and within 6 months to 2 years, you're back in the same place. Now, the last one, you go, that's not me, I don't want to be that. But that's a lot of guys. And here's why, is because a lot of guys really don't want to change anything. What they want to do is get a silver bullet to win her back. I say win her back, which is really just a nice word of saying manipulation, right? Like, Billy, I'm sure you've been on calls with guys where it's like, just tell me what I got to say to her, right?
Just tell me what I got to say. I just want to
tell me what I got to say.
Just tell me what I got to say.
Yeah. Why? Because we can't live without the pussy. Mm-hmm. like it's not even about her. Like, I've heard guys be like, oh, but she's my soulmate and she's my everything. And dude, I said every single one of those things. I remember thinking to myself when I was going through I went through multiple separations and thinking through those things and going, I just can't live without her. There's not another woman in this world that I'd want to be with, and all these things. And I fast forward all these years later, and I'm like, bro, I didn't see the light. I was blind, but now I see how I was treated. Now I see that there was more out there, that I was selling myself short because I lacked value in myself. And so what we want to do is not awaken you to this place of you should divorce your wife. It's not to awaken you to this place of you should save your marriage. It's to awaken you to a place where you, for yourself and for your marriage and for you, make the choice. Nothing irritates me more than a guy coming into our group and judging our content because they think we're pushing divorce, or they think we're pushing save the marriage, or they think we're pro women in the sense of women cheating or women doing those things, and it's all the man's fault. Listen, I'm telling you, if you listen to my podcast, you listen to my group, you listen to my stuff, I am not that guy. The guy I am is a very balanced guy. That means that each person is responsible for their own shit in their marriage. You are responsible for the good. You are responsible for the bad. You are responsible as a leader in that marriage. But so is she. She is responsible for her things. But we can't improve she. We can't sit around hitting the she button all day and hoping that she changes because we talked about what she did wrong or how she treated us and all these things. And so we've got to get clarity on what we want. So the clarity on you either want to be married because you know you want to be married to her, or you don't want to be married anymore, or you just want to save the old marriage where you repeat the same mistakes. So figure that out first. And let's talk about now the two primary paths. We talked about suboptimal and optimal. So suboptimal literally means less than the highest standard or quality. Less than the highest standard or quality. Billy, have you ever had suboptimal work done like in a home, or suboptimal products that you bought and you were just like disappointed?
Yeah. Yeah. I had a car. Yeah. I had a car that I went to a certain mechanic because we went to high school together. We were buddies, and his work was suboptimal, and he was a good friend. And ultimately it ended up costing me thousands of dollars. And because I just kept going back, kept going back. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And it's like this pattern of dysfunction because you feel like, well, I guess this is what I deserve. This is what I get, right? Suboptimal. And there's so many guys listening to my podcast, watching these videos in my Facebook group, that are literally at this place of, well, I guess this is my lot in life. And I thought the same thing. Like, I literally thought the same thing was, oh, okay, well, I've got a cheating wife and this is what it is. Or, oh, I've got a crazy wife and this is just what it is. Like, this is just what it is. It's just bullshit. Mm-hmm. Now, there are certain things that obviously you can't control what she does, but you can control what you do. Mm-hmm. And that's what this training is all about is, do I want a suboptimal life, a suboptimal marriage, or do I want an optimal marriage? Do I want an optimal life? And the word optimal literally means best or most favorable. And I love that because the flip of this is that you can live your life to a standard of suboptimal living, which is living below what is possible, what you are capable of. Men do this financially, they do this spiritually, they do this emotionally, they do this physically, they do this in so many areas, especially the areas where they don't feel valuable or where they don't feel like they have what it takes. There are guys that are listening to this right now who are with the wrong woman. And then there are guys listening to this right now who don't believe they have what it takes to stand through the fire, to basically stand for the marriage, to create a new marriage. They don't believe they have what it takes to do the work that it takes to become an empowered man. I mean, dude, how many calls have you been on where you're like, hey, this is what we do. This is how we help you. We know we can help you do these things. And a guy basically is like, I just don't know that I can do the work. Yeah. Tell me about it.
My situation's different. You haven't heard this. Like, what I've got going on is unique, Yeah, but. And one of the things that really hit home for me, Mark, whenever I first started working with you was when you started talking about the story you're telling yourself. Like, what is the story you're telling yourself? And you say that, you could look at that at every aspect of your life. Is it physical? Is it financial? Is it this, that, or the other? Yeah, well, I can't because of this. Yeah, well, I can't fix my marriage, or I can't improve my communication or change me because I've got this, that going on in my life. It's really the story we tell ourselves, and our language on a daily basis is so huge. So yeah, I've heard it on probably hundreds of times.
Yeah.
How you
It's the
can.
same victim thinking that we apply
Yep.
to everything.
Yeah.
The reason I was so obese and overweight was because I kept telling myself a story that I can't work out at a gym. I can't eat the right food. It is easier to do these things, but is it really? Right? It's not easier. It's actually just what I'm choosing more than it's easier. What
Yeah.
actually has become easier is me getting up at 5:30 4 times a week to go to the gym. What else has become easier is the type of food I put in my body, where I'm now conscious and aware of what I'm putting in my body. I do not have the perfect body, and I probably will never have a six-pack abs, but what matters is I'm choosing optimal living over suboptimal living. And every time I have something I know I shouldn't have, or something that's not optimal for my body, I get to choose that and say, hey, it was my choice. I'm not a victim of the circumstances I'm in. Case in point, the other night we were out, and it was a day where I was choosing not to eat certain foods, and I was presented with an opportunity to have a beer. And the person I was with was like, please have this beer with me. This would be great, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? I'm choosing to have the beer with the person. Now, I
Right.
could have gone home in shame and be like, oh my gosh, you ruined your day calorie wise. Oh, you did all these things. But it's like, no, that was my choice for that day. Does it set me back 2 days in my journey? Yeah, but it was my choice. I owned it and decided to continue to optimize what I'm doing instead of living suboptimally. So here's the interesting thing about suboptimal living is it's really about control. When you're suboptimal, you're just trying to control stuff. You're not actually leading, you're just controlling, which is more about manipulation. Whereas optimal is about being congruent, especially with your own values. So if I want to live this suboptimal way, it's really about I'm just trying to control my situation, trying to control my wife, trying to control this, trying to control my kids. I'm living very suboptimally because in that guise of control, I think I have control, but I really don't. That manipulation that I've lived by is being thwarted constantly. This is where I find a lot of men struggling because they come into marriage from a place of thinking that marriage is about, well, she's going to serve me and meet my needs and all those things and make me happy. And as long as she's happy, then I can be happy. And she is my happiness. All this bullshit. And it's really about suboptimal living because it's control. It's like, well, as long as I control the situation, then everything will be okay. But here's what happens: you lose control when she decides, hey, you know what? I don't like the story that we're living in. I'm choosing to create another story. And a guy just fucking loses his mind because he doesn't know what to do with that. But this applies because this is applying to every area of his life. Men will come in this group, successful men will come into our Thrive program, or they'll come in to have a call with us, and they're killing it in the world. They're doctors, they're lawyers, they're hedge fund managers, there's sports broadcasters, like all kinds of people come into our world. And they basically were under this guise of I had control. And then as soon as she backed out, as soon as she said, I don't want to be married to you, they've lost control. And when you lose control as a man, you feel lack of confidence, you feel lack of clarity, you lose your identity, you have no power, you have no freedom, you don't know what the fuck you are doing anymore. You don't even know who the fuck you are. And men, this is why we are not a divorce support group. While that is important stuff, and maybe Dr. Who and Who can do that, and somebody else, Mert Fortel, or somebody else can help you, Thrive, Hive Consulting, whoever the heck they are, can help you with those things. We are here to help you get your power back in every dimension of your life. What we do is we start with your marriage because that's where you've been hit. And we found that the key to unlocking a man's true potential, true growth, is to find him at a point where he goes, I need help. Because many men will not reach out for help. They will live a suboptimal life. They will choose a suboptimal life until something hurts, until something gets them to that place. Billy, do you had an experience like that, right? With the way you were living? Tell me about it.
Yeah, no, listen, I had a lot of friends. My wife was having multiple affairs, right? over a long period of time. And the story I told myself is like, I'm this great dad. Everybody loves me except you. You know, why can't you see this? Blah, 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 blah. And then I did the common thing that what a lot of guys that I get on calls with do is like, they go to their friends for validation and support, or they go to their families for validation and support. And you get feed a line of bullshit, which is, you are great. You know what? It's her, it's not you, blah, 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 blah. And we live in this lie to where we're lying to ourselves. And I lied to myself for, man, probably 8 months. 8 months of living a lie. And then I got up one day and I looked around and it was just me, right? Family was gone, kids were gone. My friends had their families to go back to. And I looked around and I was like, it's really me. Like, I'm the common denominator in all of this. So yeah, I mean, I lived a lie for 8 months before I, got my shit together and started focusing on me and investing in me. Yeah, for sure.
And it really comes back to this. And when I say control, what I'm going to say is this is actually the illusion of control. So it's really, the question is, would you rather have the illusion of control, or would you rather have congruence? And that congruence is living a life where your values are congruent, the way you live, who you're married to, who you interact with, your relationships, all those things are set and they're concrete, and you're congruent with all of those pieces and those facets. I mean, how much better of a life is that to live? I remember when I moved out and I moved on and had, filed for divorce and all those things, and getting into my own home, it was just like, it was the strangest feeling. I was actually talking to a client about this yesterday. It was the strangest thing about going, I've had all these values, I've had all these ways of wanting to live that I had not been able to live because I was married. And I'm not talking about like sleeping around or anything crazy. I'm talking about even choosing what color pots and pans or dumb shit, But it's the same truth when it comes to the values you have, because most marriages break down because the values aren't congruent. Like we think it's about, well, we argue about communicate. All those things have to do with values. If you can be on the same page with your wife, your spouse, and have the same values as them, your marriage will flourish. Communication will work itself out. Finances will work itself out. But if you have the same values, that's what you should be looking at. So the question is, would you rather have the illusion of control over your wife, over your kids, over your situation, your marriage, whatever, or would you rather have congruence with your values? This is super important, because if you can't answer this correctly in yourself, meaning if you can't be honest with yourself, nothing else we talk about for the rest of this call will actually help you. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is that essentially all this training boils down to is this question here, is, do I want the illusion of control, or do I want to live a congruent life? Your optimal path forward is literally tied to this question. Do I want to live an illusion of control or congruence? If you're watching this live, I want you to type in control or congruence. You put it in the chat box there if you're on live. If you're listening to this on the podcast, my apologies, you can't type it in anywhere. But hey, feel free to email us if you want to actually email what it is. And by the way, when we're done with this, we're going to actually give you guys all of these notes, so you don't have to like write all this stuff down. We'll give you our notes and share it with you when we're done. Hey, this is Mark Santiago, CEO and founder of Empowered Man. I want to thank you for listening to today's podcast. However, before you go, I want to give you a special invitation. Now listen, we've got a program that is designed specifically for men who are hurting right now, who are on the verge potentially of divorce, who are facing potential separation or already separated, and they don't know what to do. They don't know where to turn. They're dealing with anxiety. They're dealing with cheating. They're dealing with all kinds of shit. If that's you, I want to challenge you to take the Empowered Man 30-Day Challenge. That's right, the Empowered Man 30-Day Challenge. You can go to emchallenge.com right now and sign up for the 30-Day Challenge. Here's why I think you should do that. If you're hurting, you need to understand why you're hurting. You need to understand what is actually going on. In week 1 of the challenge, we are going to actually rip off that Band-Aid a little bit and coach you through that process. And then we continue to do that process all the way to the point where you start to make decisions that are empowered instead of disempowered. I don't know about you, but I would much, much, much rather make decisions from a place of strength than a place of weakness. So if you're facing decisions, if you're facing this anxiety, what do I do? How do I respond? When my wife is being toxic, I don't know what to do. My wife is cheating on me. I don't know what to do. My wife doesn't love me. I don't know what to do. We are going to help you find those answers within. Now, look, this 30-day challenge is probably unlike any other you've been a part of. Why? Because not only do we have daily assignments happening in the program every single day, but you also get live group coaching calls. I said live group coaching calls with myself and my lead coach. That's right. I am a part of this. It's not just some other people doing it. I am there live with you every single week call that we are on. Third part of that is you're going to have a community of other guys that are going through exactly what you are going through. And the best part of this isn't even a fraction of the price we could charge for it. In fact, at some point we may raise the price, but right now it is at a bargain. So go to emchallenge.com, emchallenge.com to take the Empowered Man 30-day challenge, and I will see you on the inside.